Hello, this is Sherry, and today I'm going to show you how to make a mini rose. And I've chosen to do a mini rose instead of the big rose because the technique is the same, just petals are bigger. Okay? And we'll just get started right away. Put these out of the way. You're going to start with 4 different sizes of petals. One is the biggest one on here is about 3.5 inches, 1, 2, 3.5 inches. And then each petal is a 1/2 inch smaller. So this one's going to be 3, 2.5, and 2 inches. You're going to take each petal, and I use just a glue stick, a mini glue stick, and just curl the edges. Okay, I know I've curled these before. I didn't want to have to go cut some more flowers, so I thought, well, I'm just going to uncurl them and curl them again. Okay, curl each one of them. If I was using the bigger roses, I would probably start down a little bit further. Okay, these all just get kind of folded on a slant. Okay, this last one though, the smallest rose, I'm going to fold it, just curl it straight across. Okay, so I end up with something that looks like that. Okay, and you'll end up with a gob of them here. Okay, we've got 8 little ones. That's going to be the center. This will be the first layer of petals, second layer, and then the third layer. We really end up with 4. So I'm going to just set those out of the screen because I don't want to messy up the screen too much. Okay, so I'm going to start with 2. And these ones I'm going to, the first 2, I cut off those tails. They're just kind of in the way, and they end up ripping the paper instead of folding like you want, so just get rid of them, okay? And you can use a dowel rod if you'd like to make that. I like to make my very center very tiny, so I'll use this dowel rod. And if I wanted it a little bit smaller, I do have a smaller dowel rod. That one is 3/8 inch. This one here is 1/8. Yeah, 1/8 inch. And it can make it pretty small. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty little. I can even go in with my fingers and make it a little smaller if I want it a little teeny tiny. And fold it. Glue it at one point because you're going to want that to be glued shut at least. Okay. And then glue the petals shut. Hold that for a second. I have at times gotten tired of waiting for this glue, especially on this here, and just put a piece of tape around it. Nobody's going to see it, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so see I've got that started. Okay, and that's still a little flat on that end where I wanted it to be flat. And then I'm going to take my next layer, and I'm just going to glue that on there because I want that to stay put. It doesn't matter where you put it, it's going to be okay. Wrap it around and kind of wrap it loosely because you want it to start opening up, okay? And put that on there. Hold it. And there we've got a little teeny tiny bud. I'm going to take 2 petals and I'm going to glue them across from each other. I'm done with that dowel rod. Let's get that out of here. And I'm done with scissors. This paper is from Michael's, I believe. They had it where you could buy 20 sheets for $1. I thought that was pretty reasonable. I bought quite a few. Okay, so I'm going to get those aside, and I want these to be nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and fold that up so that'll have it. Okay, so here's where I'm going to put just a glob of glue and set my centerpiece in it. Just like that. I'm going to hold it for a second because I want it to stay exactly there. and set that aside. Let it dry a little bit. Keep coming back to it, okay? I don't like this new glue I bought. It's a Elmer's glue, and it's supposed to be stronger glue, which is fine, but it's got a lot of strings. Every time I turn around, I've got strings everywhere. Okay, so we've got that. Let's make up my 8, because your petals are always, you do them in sets of 4. Do it in sets of 4, and then you crisscross them like this. And you do that through the whole entire flower with all the layers. All your layers will end up. This paper is really thick. I usually like to use 65 pound. That's what these flowers are made with, 65 pound paper. This is about, I'm going to say 75 pound. It's pretty thick. Okay, so back to here. That should be dry enough to do now. I'm just going to glue the edges of the petal, just like that. And then I'm going to wrap it. And I'm going to wrap it so that I end up with just a little bit, each petal's going to get a little bit bigger. Okay. So glue that one. And kind of push this together, otherwise it tends to start bulging out, and you don't want that. You want it to stay tight around it, just right around it. See how I'm making that just a little bigger? I'm just eyeballing it. Okay. Now I can bring this piece in and go ahead and glue it. Now I have to pay attention. Okay? For this next step, you're going to end up with a little triangle. And when you look at your 2 petals that you've crisscrossed, you've got one on the top, one on the bottom. You always want to start with the top one. So I'm going to want that triangle to go where it's going to get covered up first. Okay. Alright, so I'm ready to start with this one. Put my glue on each side of the petal. Lift it up, push down at the bottom, and make a gap. And hold the petal. While I'm holding that one, I'm going to go ahead and get this one started. Now this is really the only ones I can do this on. Each other layers you're going to have to wait till the glue dries. This one you can because you're almost holding in the same spot. See how that's just coming together and making that rose? Just the center rose. You're just building on it to make it go. And here we go. I'm making it a little bigger, pushing down at the bottom, pinching it together. Okay. And there we go. We have our rose center. Okay, that's just the rose center. But it's really pretty. Okay, so while that's going together, I'm going to start with my next layer. And I start with 4. Again, I'm going to crisscross them. Got 2 that I'm going to go ahead and glue up. Push them together. And crisscross them. Now this time though, we had our flowers like this for the bud, where the curly part was coming up. Now we want the curly part going down. Okay? I'm going to again look at my triangle, and since this is the top one, that's the one I'm going to start with. I'm going to want my triangles to get covered up. I'll just put that on there. Now this is where you need the little technique for how you hold your fingers, okay? I'm going to use my middle finger and my thumb, and they're going to go underneath the petals. And my forefinger, my pointy finger, is going to press that down. So I kind of end up with a S-curve, okay? I'm going to see where that's going to go and hold it at the bottom because that's where I want it to go. I have to maneuver that fold a little bit because this paper is quite foldy. So I know where I want that glue to go. And just hold it. Make sure there's a gap. I kind of used my finger as a width of how far I want that gap to be in that center. Okay. And I'm not going to let this go until I know it's good and dry because this paper is so thick. When you do, it immediately starts coming apart. And then you've got to put another layer of glue, and it's just not very pretty. Okay, so I'm going to hold that, say, oh, and see they're just kind of kissing, just barely touching right there. Okay, and just hold it there. Ouch! Glue is hot. Again, I'm not going to let go until that is good and dry. I see some more strings on that glue. See, I don't really like that glue. I'm going to use it up though. I'm not wasteful with that. Just like it's just cumbersome. Okay, so I'm ready to do my next one. This is just going to kind of hug around. Oh, see, that came apart. And that will matter there. We can't have it. Okay. I kind of probably let that go a little bit too soon. It'll be okay. It will be just fine. But I'm going to be careful to not let it go too soon again. Because it's not worth it. It's worth waiting that extra 30 seconds to do it. See, I got some glue on the outside edges, so I'll take that off. Put my fingers under, pinch it, place it. See, we're again making another triangle. It's going to get covered up, so don't worry about all that yucky glue. It's all right. And it's just about dried. Okay. So I'm going to set that aside and prepare my next level. And crisscross. And I don't want to forget to flip. And that's it for right now. I'll come back for part 2, and I'll see you in a few minutes.